Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about off-grid water usage and how much you might expect to use if you move off-grid.
So this video is designed for somebody who's planning an off-grid lifestyle and has no idea how much water they're going to need.
Like we did.
Like we did. So we started out with jerry cans because on this whole off-grid journey we traveled around a lot. So for us, every litre has been very important. And the interesting thing about this topic of water usage is that if you have a quick Google online, for example, Sydney Water will tell you that on average each person uses about 200 litres per day, which would imply that as a couple we would use 400 litres a day.
It's a lot of water.
Which is an immense amount of water. So, and yet we found another article where another couple calculated their water usage to be about 60 litres per day.
And they were living off-grid, that
yes,
couple.
So that was an off-grid setting, which for that couple, that ends up being about 400 litres per week. And normal people use 400 litres per day.
Big
and
difference.
Now we've been able to do a little bit better than that, not as a competition, but just to see how little water we can use without sacrificing any modern day luxuries. So we have a pretty specific number by this point, and the reason we wanted to make this video is because no matter where we've lived, where we've gone, we've always used the same amount of water, whether it's been winter or summer. And this number is 150 litres per week in the van, and an extra 150 litres when we decided to try using a washing machine. So
it's pretty good.
It's sensational.
Yeah.
And I guess the real thing is, what do you get to do with that much water? And that's what we'll show you next in the video.
And some tips and tricks on how to be a bit more conservative with your water usage.
Alright guys, we're inside the van now over by our sink, and I'll take you quickly through the four main categories of water usage. So surprisingly, not that many. First of which, most importantly, we've got our drinking water. We use the live straw jug, just in case. Everywhere we've stayed, we don't know. In case there's anything in the water, we filter our water using this jug. And at most, for us two, including our little doggies, we probably use 5 litres per day maximum for drinking and cooking with. 5 times 7 is 35 litres per week. Drinking water is not much at all. So a much bigger usage of water is washing dishes. And I'll take you guys quickly through how we wash the dishes, because if you've lived in the city, the way that a lot of people wash dishes is they basically leave the tap running and then they're washing the dishes, and it might take them 15 minutes. And you'd be surprised how much water you'd use in 15 minutes while having the tap running non-stop. So I'll show you a quick demo just as a case study for, water usage off-grid.
Soapy bowl of water.
One of the keys is having this soapy bowl of water. Now, I don't need to keep putting soap on the sponge. I don't need to keep putting water everywhere. Tap's still off. If you notice, we haven't turned on the tap. So now we can soap up this dish. Looks very clean. And now the key with rinsing it off is the first lot of water might be a little bit dirty, so we rinse it off elsewhere. But if there's a final rinse, we can just sneakily put a bit of water in that bowl again.
Reuse that.
Yeah. Obviously, not everybody has to be this stingy. It's just an example for how we've been able to use such a small amount of water while still, having everything nice and clean. Small examples like if you've washed a few bits of cutlery, we're not going to rinse each one separately. I'm just going to take these and rinse it as a bunch. So another usage for water is washing hands, brushing teeth, and so on. And that probably only uses a couple of litres a day.
Not much at all.
Not much at all. Because once again, if we're washing our hands, we're not going to have the tap running and soaping up our hands. That's the key. You soap up your hands and the water's off. You wet your hands, you brush them, and then you turn the water back on, rinse them off. It's just simple stuff like that.
Okay, so lastly we have the shower, which uses the most amount of water. As our name suggests, we used to live in the city, and in the city people are known for having really long showers. It's a place for contemplation, warming your soul, and spending a long time. But off-grid, to conserve water, we don't do that. We go to the fire instead to warm our soul. And to use minimal water, some of the tips for the shower are to, like we did with the sink, just have it off when you're not using it. So you would turn it on, wet your body, turn it off, soap up, lather the hair, and then you can turn it back on to rinse everything off. And then that's a really good way to use minimal water. And obviously it's not a place for contemplation. We do that outside looking at the trees.
And one last thing to mention about that is that in winter, obviously the first bit of water that comes out is really, really cold.
Really cold.
So I like the whole cold shower experience. So every morning I just take on the cold water and then Sarah gets a warm shower. But alternatively, that water can also be used for boiling potatoes, for example. You just come up with a container and collect the cold water and then cook something with it.
Use it later in the afternoon. So that brings us to the end of today's video, and that 150 litres doesn't include washing. So if you were to do washing, we used more around 300 litres per week when we did, and that doesn't include a flushing toilet either. A lot of off-grid people use composting toilets, but if you were to use a flushing one, you'd have to account for a little bit more water usage there as well.
Yeah, so just a quick brief video from us, and what this experience really taught me was how much water we used to waste living in the city. You know, to go from using 200 litres a day to doing that per week between the two of us is pretty cool. And I guess this case study just highlights the fact that if everybody saved a little bit of water, then we wouldn't really ever have shortages and water running out in dry conditions. So yeah.
I think it's just teaching city people to be mindful of where's that water coming from, because in the city it just seems like it's endless.
Yeah, but water isn't endless, and you especially learn that when living off rainwater and stuff like that off-grid. So for anybody looking to make an off-grid lifestyle change, here's a quick example of how much water we ended up using.
Yeah.
So cheers, guys. And a really cool update we'll share with you guys next is we ended up sealing our pond.
Very exciting.
Dam, pond, whatever you guys call it in the country where you live. So our pond used to leak quite a bit, a few centimeters a day, and we used this really cool product called Dam Sealer. We've been tracking the water levels for a couple of months on and off, and we finally fixed the problem. So pretty excited to share that one with you guys. It was a very good result.